Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Good afternoon, dear learners. Welcome to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University Ahmedabad video session. I am over here, Dr. Ushma A. Bhatt, the Assistant Professor of English from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. Today we are going to learn the second year BA English main as well as English subsidiary video lecture regarding unit number 13 block 3, and we have to learn today Anita Desai, her life, works and her narrative techniques. Basically, the unit is about the study of novel, that which we are going to focus on. Previously, we had already learnt about the form of the novel and the form of the prose, as well as we learnt in the literary terms and literary genres, we learnt the form of the prose writing. Today we are going to focus on the study of novel with a view to particular writer Anita Desai. So let's start our work today. Anita Desai, her life, works and narrative techniques. As we all know, there are many Indian English writers like Manju Kapoor, Bharti Mukherjee, then Badami Anita Rao, Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, Meenakshi Alexander, Sujata Bhatt, and in the same way there is Anita Desai and her daughter Kiran Desai also. But today's lecture focuses on Anita Desai only. Her original name is known to be Anita Majumdar, and she was born on June 24 on 1937, Mussoorie in India. She is known to be the English language Indian novelist because she was writing and she had been writing in English language with a view to Indian style, Indian customs, Indian fervor was found in her works. She was born to a German mother and Bengali father. She grew up speaking German, Hindi and English basically, and as her mother was German, she knew German language also. And she received a BA in English from the University of Delhi in 1957. So her study was in India, and being an Indian, still she was so much powerful in the second language, English language. So we can see that she had been the most proclaimed name in Indian English writing. The suppression and oppression of Indian women were the subjects of her first novel, and her first novel is Cry the Peacock, and a later novel, Where Shall We Go This Summer, in 1975, as well as the first novel was in 1963. So basically her write-up, her most of the writings are with Indian English writing, and the focus is on the form of novel. You can see the photograph over here. Here there is a photograph, the novels of Anita Desai, a critical evaluation. This picture shows that she is a woman of senior category, the most experienced woman. Now let's go for the biographical study of Anita Desai. Fire on the Mountain, which was published in 1977, was criticized as relying too heavily on imagery at the expense of a plot and characterization, but it was praised for its poetic symbolism and works of sounds. So there is a novel, Fire on the Mountain, which shows the psychological trauma of characters. It is much more about psychology of individual human beings, as if you might have learnt a stream of consciousness technique in Victorian literature. Same kind of psychological trauma and psychological understanding and characterization is found in this novel, Fire on the Mountain. Then there is another novel which was published in 1980, Clear Light of the Day. It was considered the author's most successful work, and it is praised for its highly evocative portrait of two sisters caught in the exhaustion of Indian life. Its characters are revealed not only through imagery but through gesture, dialogue, and reflection. So, there are three main things. Two sisters, they were caught in the exhaustion of Indian life, and their character study is displayed in the novel. So basically the novel is a feminine kind of novel. You must remember, dear students, learners, that the novels of Anita Desai were mostly on the psychological understanding of the character. It is generally found on the feminine characters. It is sometimes found on the Indian English culture and Indian English fervor. So certain kinds of things are found in her novels. The short story writer, she has been the screenwriter also, the writer of highly influenced generations or writers, and the writer of first category. Her first story was Circus Cat, her first novel Cry the Peacock in 1963, and she has double identity, double perspective, as well as migrants to India and Indian immigrants to the West. So this is a very dualistic binomial tendency which she had been having, that she could write the best about her Indian culture, her mother culture. In the same way, she explored the Western culture also with her beautiful new eyes and new ventures. She had seen the incentive things of Western culture also, and that is reflected and represented in her work of art also. So her novels are having binary tendencies. There are two cultures in her novels which could be found, because as being a German parent's child, she was an Anglo-Indian child, and she has been having English identity as well as Indian English identity. That's why she had presented dual culture in her novels, that you must have to mention. Desai herself says that she was influenced by British literature and British writers. Jane Austen, Virginia Woolf, D.H. Lawrence, and E.M. Forster were models in writing. These are some of the best works of first category in the case of Anita Desai that you must have to remember. The Artist of Disappearance, Fire on the Mountain, Clear Light of the Day, Games at Twilight, Fasting and Feasting, and Anita Desai overall. So these are the most predominant works which one must read if he or she is a student of literature. They must see, or they must go through these typical works. There are certain awards and prizes awarded to Anita Desai which we must have to mention in our essay or answer regarding the biographical study of the author, or the multiple choice based question about the author. That is the important information which could be asked in the credit based choice system questions also. So you need to remember these data. 1978 National Academy of Letters Award for Fire on the Mountain. Fire on the Mountain, I tell you, the learners, it is the most important works of almost all the other works. Clear Light of the Day and Cry the Peacock, they are the initial works of her initial career, starting of her career, but still they haven't reached that much height which is found in the characters and plot in the novel of Fire on the Mountain. So that you are supposed to remember. 1978 Winifred Memorial Prize for the novel Fire on the Mountain. Then 1980 Booker Prize for the novel Clear Light of the Day. And in 2000 Albert Moravio Prize for Literature, Italy. Then Benson Medal of Royal Society of Literature. This prize was in the year 2003, and in 2007 Sahitya Akademi Fellowship. As well as she had gained 2014 Padma Bhushan award also. So we can see how intelligently she had boosted her career, and her portfolio is with full of awards and prizes. So let's go much more about her. Her major, Anita Desai's major works, In Custody. Yes, this is the most important works of almost all the other works, because you guys must know that it is about the serial television soap opera serial which was directed on this particular novel, In Custody. Then there is another work, Bogatner's Bombay. It is published in Penguin Books in 1989, and there are some popular short stories also. Games at Twilight, Village by the Sea, A Long Story, Grandmother 1960, and The Accompanist in 1975. So chronologically, if you study, rather than reading all this data about the novelist and her career and her awards and her works, you must do one thing. You should categorize her works as, for example, which were her novels, what were her short stories, what were the awards and prize winning books in her career. If you create 3 categories in this data and prepare the answer in that way, it will be quite easy for you to remember all these things, other than reading only the data. So this is the way in which you should prepare. Now, the most important factor of this unit number 13, second year BA English main and subsidiary, is about each novel's study. Each novel's outline study is very much important. Look, first one is Cry the Peacock in 1990, the story of Maya. She is the most sensitive woman, and she is neurotic even, because she was not satisfied with her married life and was not satisfied with her husband, and she had fear and marital disharmony, and out of this marital disharmony, her growth and development and neurotic crisis all were depicted in the novel in 3 parts. And Maya's marriage to Gautam, it was not a happy marriage, and she was very much dissatisfied, and it led to the tragic tone of the novel Cry the Peacock, and she was obsessed, and unfulfilled fantasies was in her mind, and that's why she was prone to kill her own husband, and she committed the murder, and she killed her husband. That was the thing which happened in the case of Maya. And you must remember that this novel is in 3 parts. Cry the Peacock is in 3 parts, part 1, part 2 and part 3. The same kind of parts you might have been read in Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse novel. In the novel To the Lighthouse there are 2 parts. So this partly the technique of writing the novel in parts, this was very much influenced in the case of Anita Desai. She was very much influenced by Virginia Woolf, and her same technique is reflected in this work Cry the Peacock. So that you have to see how she was influenced by other authors and other writers. Voices in the City, it is in 1990, a novel of the idea of freedom in life. Calcutta setting, Nerod's mother and her 2 sisters, Monisha and Amla, like Kali who unleashes evil. Monisha commits suicide as she could not resist the marriage to Jiban, and Nero's transition from one failure to another, and Amla has been a city-bred brat. So there are 3 main characters in this novel, Voices in the City. Amla is a modern girl of city. Monisha is the girl who felt the suppression of womanism, womanhood and feminist issues. She strongly stands to show the feminism, and in the same way there is another character of Nerod's mother. So 3 female characters, and they were the main prominent characters of this novel Voices in the City, where we can find much more feminism, much more womanism and much more issues about female suppression. So it is one of the leading works of Anita Desai. Afterwards, there would be some other important works which are mentioned over here, and this is the chapter unit number 13, which talks about almost all the all the novels in general, and you are not supposed to prepare any particular novel in specific, but here in this unit you are supposed to read almost all the novels outline and the summary, and you have to prescribe all these novels and all these summaries in your answer as well. Now, the most famous, I believe that it is the famous book of her works, other works, Bye Bye Blackbird, 1971. It was very much famous and very popular. I mean to say, the most selective book of Bombay University, when Bombay University, SNDT University was connected with Bombay University. At that time, they had kept this book in their syllabus, and this you can find in most of the other graduation courses as well. The story of immigrants, a mixed feeling of love and hate towards their adopted country in foreign society, the plight of Indian immigrants in London, and the story in 3 parts. Look, again here you can see that she, Anita Desai, is very much influenced by Virginia Woolf and Jane Austen, as well as she is writing about female characters and the psyche of female, same like Jane Austen. And she has been writing this technique of novel writing, the style of novel writing. It is the influence of Virginia Woolf, and we can say not only this, but Anita Desai could also be kept in the category of diaspora writers because she is writing immigrant stories. She has been describing immigration stories, the stories of migrants, the stories of transitional people and their dual cultures. So that's why we can put her name in diaspora literature as well. Arrival, revelation and perception of final abandonment. Beautiful London and the busy life. The real problems of immigrants. The story of recent immigrants who were static and not ready to assimilate. One who assimilates easily and happily, native who marries an immigrant, wonderful meaning. All these meanings and all these things regarding immigrants and the migrants, they are very well established over here in her work Bye Bye Blackbird. The next is Where Shall We Go This Summer? An intense story of a sensitive young wife, Sita, and her most obsessed and unnecessary as well as most unsatisfactory married life of some Sita and Raman. They had abandoned place, and there was a place in Mansouri, an island in Mao, to escape from the duties and responsibilities of her 4 children and husband. Look, this happens why? Because Sita escaped from the regular responsibility and regular day-to-day activity of her family domestic life. And why she had escaped? Because she was not happy with her married life, neither she was happy and satisfied with her 4 children, and as she was not ready to do any responsibility and she was not ready to do any work, she escaped from her domestic life and her family, and she was not ready to give birth to her 5th child also. She remembered the reality of her selfish father and childhood, and she concluded that it is better to return to reality and return to the family. So this is the actual story of a woman who wanted to escape from the regular day-to-day domestic life, and the woman who is not satisfied with the domestic lifestyle in India. Basically, Sita is the reflection of most of the Indian women who had been representing the family life and who were actually showing the burden, containing and passing from the burden of the day-to-day hustle and bustle, day-to-day lifestyle. But she is the only courageous lady, in fact, negatively only, but she is the only woman who had escaped from her responsibilities. So this is in fact a very important story to show the feminine character study. Afterwards, the most important work of Anita Desai, which is known as Fire on the Mountain, psychological loneliness and isolation, anguish, and agony in the deserted life of an old widow. Yes, here the character Nanda Cole becomes very much important. Nanda Cole is a she's an Indian widow whose husband had already passed away, and she was leading the only isolated, morose, lonely life in one her home. And it her home had also looked like a haunted house in Kasauli. You know that it is the place where mostly there is a rainy season and mostly there is winter. So naturally the atmosphere of rainy season and winter without summer, it is genuinely shows as the morose atmosphere, the gloomy atmosphere. And same gloomy atmosphere is reflected by the character also, Nanda Kaul, as she was living only the only and lonely lady in one home. And she got a letter from her daughter Asha, who had been coming over there. Her daughter announced the arrival of Raka, Asha's granddaughter. So Asha wrote the letter to her mother that she was going to have one child, Raka, and she asked in her letter to her mother that could you please take the responsibility to take care of this child. And Nanda Kaul, as she was very happy in her isolated life, she was not ready to take the responsibility of that young child, and that's why she wonders about and painfully was accepting to look after the child. She was thinking that whether I should take the responsibility of the child or not. This dilemma itself shows her psychological realism and her psyche in her mind, and which is very finely elaborated by the pen of Anita Desai, that we can find in Fire on the Mountain. In Custody, Devin Sharma has very finely been shown as the character in this novel In Custody by Anita Desai. Setting of India, the story of the 80s to 1999. Devin, a discontented life with his wife Sarla and their young son. There are three characters, Devin, Sarla and their child's son. Teaching Hindi yet Urdu is his passion. Look, the most important thing in this story is Devin's dilemma and Devin's conflict, his struggle to create the career with proper job satisfaction, which he could never do, and that's why he had been shown the person who had totally collapsed in his life. He was trying to teach Urdu, but he could not because he was a teacher of Hindi, and that's why he could not get the chance to teach Urdu. So one of his friends had given him the idea that you can take an interview of Noor. Noor was a very great old Urdu poet, and Devin could go to take the interview of Noor, and that in that way he could speak Urdu as well as he could show some expertise in Urdu. He could get the stage and background to show or to work with Urdu language. But finally the simple project had become very much complicated due to certain ambiguous thing. Devin took the task of writing the biography of Noor, and Devin faced a series of disasters and lost his job, and his experiences made him better human being of life. So basically Devin could neither do well in his Hindi language nor he could show any greater expertise in Urdu, and only thing that we found in the novel, that is about his experiences that he had been carrying in his day-to-day life. So this is the most important story. The moral of the novel is how you lead the life, that becomes very much important. Whether what you do or what you work is not important, but how you lead your genuine life, that is the moral of the novel, which Anita Desai had very finely elaborated. Now, narrative techniques in Anita Desai's novels. The most important thing is about the narrative technique. Technique comes from the Greek word and it means art. What is her art? how she had presented the data, that becomes important. Meenakshi Mukherjee quoted that we're less concerned with the larger social world than a strict fidelity to the individual vision of their central characters. Look, this is the very best quotation mentioned by Meenakshi Mukherjee about Anita Desai, that she had presented the social world, the society of Germany or India, or in Fire on the Mountain, about Nanda Kaul, or about Maya in Cry the Peacock, or about Sita and Raman in another novel that we had seen earlier. Almost all the characters were very fidel, and they were fidel to the individual and to the central characters also. Means the plot is very clear in most of the novels, and almost all the characters seem to be the lively characters. They seem to be the realistic one. In fact, they are the novels, but it shows that as if they are the realistic characters. Inclination towards the subjective experiences of life, the conflicts of human existences, total anguish and despair, a new orientation to Indian English writing and the literary scene as an innovator of technical skill. So this is the most important thing. She had shown total anguish, pain, suffering, individual psyche, even human psyche in narration as well as in the dialogue of the character also. In both the ways there is a psyche which is displayed in her novels. She had utilized narratology technique also, as well as sometimes we feel that she had been taking the technique of stream of consciousness. So certain kind of dualistic tendencies which are found in her novels, which makes the novel interestingly the best kind of novels. So that's why it is mentioned over here. And shifting from reality to psyche of the characters, look, this is very much interesting. Past, present, nostalgia and truth and reality, all these things are very well displayed in her works. Finally, the session ends over here about Anita Desai. Wish you very good luck, and we are going to meet again. Good luck to you all. Goodbye.